the next edition of the Value Exchange video podcast. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host Rob. Hi, say hello, Rob.
Hello, Rob.
I've waited at least 4 weeks for you to come up with that joke. You're a bit slow. Thank you for that. And really delighted to introduce our guest today, Claire Bora, who is a transformative coach, who we have worked with for a number of years, but who had quite a significant role in supporting our young leader program, where we were supporting 16 to 24-year-olds looking at their transition into work, but running a program influenced or under the banner of iHeart. But Claire does that and many other fantastic things to help people in the world. So I'm going to just ask you, Claire, to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, what you're about, why you do what you do, how you got to be where you are, as a starter, and then we'll have loads of questions for you after that.
Fantastic. You also froze just in that bit, and I heard as a starter. So I'm assuming it's a bit about myself.
Yes, please. Why you do what you do, how you come to be where you are, and what motivates you, and what's meaningful for you.
Hopefully the glitch is not too much on my part, and we keep connecting. So a little bit about myself. So as Annabelle said, I'm a transformative coach. I also work 2 days a week for Guide Dogs for the Blind Association as a learning and organisation development consultant. And the other 2 days for Guide Dogs. The other 2 days, I'm a freelance coach, and that's how I got involved with the lovely Ethos. How have I got to where I am today? I think an overriding passion for enabling people. I can remember when I was, as a student, working part-time in Sainsbury's, and did a little kind of thing in their HR going, I really want to enable people. And obviously HR is the place to do it. It possibly can be. But that... I kind of learned a lot. There's places in HR where you can, and there's obviously places where that's not entirely the role. But that was the passion always, was to enable people to be the best that they can be and have fun whilst they're doing it. I took the route through HR, and then quite some years ago, probably about 20 years ago, got involved in learning and development, and that was really, I thought, yeah, okay, this is fun, this is good stuff. So spent quite time doing that, and then obviously part of the role of helping others develop is coaching, and really like that. So focused more on that. And about 13 years ago, came across the field of what includes transformative coaching. It's a lot wider than that. And I really like that because I could see how it was really helping people. And then when did I do the training? 4 years ago, I finished actually. I trained as a transformational coach, and really, yes, can see the effects of how that helps people. So yeah, I think enabling people is probably the underlying thread throughout all of that.
So the missing bit for me in the why is why ethos, because it feels like you have been part of our DNA, and you haven't been paid by ethos, but there's obviously been something in what we've done together that, I mean, we could talk, but from your point of view, yeah. Why ethos? What has that been about? Tell us a bit about your ethos journey.
So I first heard of ethos through a mutual friend, Linda.
Yes. Yeah.
And shout out to Linda.
Yeah. To Linda. And what you guys were doing seemed to be all about enabling people, whether that's singularly or collectively, and through the world of work. And there was something about it that I just heard something. And Linda and I would have discussions of, there's something here that chimes with what I'm doing, but we're not quite sure how it would manifest itself. but we just knew the two were aligned, because in my work, it is about people seeing the potential that they have and realizing it, and aligning with, you know, the hell yes in their heart, and expressing that in a way that can earn them money. Or not all my work's around that. Sometimes my work is around people just getting their stuff together and being in a place where they can launch themselves from that. So there was something around what you guys were doing that seemed very aligned with how I saw how life worked. And but Linda and I didn't know how I could be involved, but we knew enough just to keep contact. And at some point, as is the way with these things, the universe turns and something presents itself. And that was the Young Leaders Programme. Obviously, when we went into lockdown and the government had the Kickstart grant, and that's really when we started the conversation, which was, you know, I would like to be of use because I'm, well, passionate about all ages, but in particular that kind of 19 to 25 group. And it was, you know, how can I be of use? Because and then of course what you guys said to me, well, yeah, we're sure you can be, but what are you going to get from us? And I'm like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And of course it was bucket loads. But yeah, that's how it came about.
So in terms of and then I'll shut up because I know Annabelle's wants to quiz you, but we have developed something called value exchange, which is over the years, and it's over many years, over the last 20 years, become more of a set of ideas, if you like, about how we can help people share their stories and get more in touch with who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, and help them to spend more time on the things that create meaning for them and less time on things that don't mean as much, and balance the money and, you know, all these sort of things that, and we call it value exchange. But how specifically has the value exchange piece of, you know, your 20 years before ethos and your 2 or 3 years after ethos, so if you think of your life in a timeline, you know, a big chunk more, you spent more of your life sadly without us than with us, and then you had a couple of years with us, and that time with us you started helping us get a community of our own mentors and coaches supporting people through value exchange. And I just wonder whether you've got any observations about what value exchange kind of meant to you, other than the young leaders bit, which of course is, it caused ethos to change our strategy as well. We've got a very different strategy now, and a big part of that is the Young Leaders Project. But actually, the enabler for young leaders was value exchange. It was kind of come in, use this process, and build your own job. You know, find out what you want to do. And you were helping us coach, mentor, whatever word, you know, before the Young Leaders Program, to build a little bit more of a practice around supporting our own people before the young leaders. Do you have any? Is that sort of? Oh, I need to lie down and think about that for.
Well, more to sort of reflect back what I think the question is. Is the question what? How has the value exchange kind of? What does it look practically to me? Is that the question?
Yeah, it's sort of it's more like I don't want you to try and educate people on. I want to unpick what impact has
Impact, yeah.
value exchange had on you personally. I think that's the question. If you want to reflect that back, but
Yeah, no, that I can resonate with that. Actually, to pick something out of what was in, I think, your first podcast, which was permission, to give myself permission that I get something from this, I just don't give. I think habitually, I give anyway, always have done. And as a parent, I think you give even more because it shouldn't be solely your role, but quite often it just, yeah. Um, and professionally, learnt very early on as a coach not to fix. I think that was, that's sort of one of the first lessons you live. As a parent, I would say that takes a little longer. So giving was very much the norm. And of course, it is of our nature, but so was also to receive. And that bit, I think, got a little lost. I mean, I do think working in guide dogs, they're very good at valuing you, or certainly in my experience, they've been very good at valuing me and what I give, etc., etc. And then as a freelance coach, you get lovely feedback from your clients, but it does still feel a lot like one way. Whereas with Ethos, yeah, the value exchange discussions were extraordinary. I mean, because people are just telling you how much they appreciate what you've been doing. With no constructive criticism. I mean, obviously, if stuff needed amending, we deal with that along the way. But it was a real. The impact was seeing the. I want to say nourishment, which probably sounds a bit odd, but that's the only word that's coming into my head that I got from doing the work that I was doing. And for me, that is because, and this is my interpretation, that the value exchange is so, you are at the center, and then it begins, and it's two way. It's sort of, it's giving and receiving, but it's really balanced. That's how I can describe it. So to receive kind of the acknowledgement, the value of what I was doing, and then also the support. So I mean, I just it was fantastic. Just the energy, the creativity, the permission to experiment, and that for me, what I've seen over my work as a coach is that you've got to experiment. You've got to take the first step, and only then, when you take the first step, other things revolve that you could never have foreseen. And seeing that in Ethos, I really got a lot out of that as well. I had a big impact to just go, it's a bit like bungee jumping. It's like, oh my God, I know I'm attached, but whoa, okay, I'm going to jump. And the permission and the support to do that was really exciting. And yeah, and that's not something coming from the charity, which is quite risk averse. That was a muscle that I had forgotten I even had. So yeah, permission to receive.
It's very, very interesting, that, and very profound reflections, Claire. So thank you for that. And we did a podcast a few weeks ago with a guy called Steve Latcham, and I've known him for years, and he has described himself over the years as a pleaser, and how
people pleaser,
he's sort of happy to serve others, but that has been quite one way. And your reflections there are very similar to his, that actually he's had a defense mechanism previously about where to draw the lines, about actually to protect his own well-being. Where does he draw the lines on pleasing? But then to realize actually that there is the opportunity for pleasing to be a very mutual thing, an exchange, and it is all about that permission. And then the other bit is that where we've gone since Young Leaders is that value exchange for 15 years has been totally an ethos thing, not a public good. So what the experiment is that is underway now with this podcast and the work we're doing is to get ethos out of the way. And, not that we're in the way, but it's something that should be a public good, that, if it helps you, if it helps other people, if you can help other people see and feel and experience that sense of permission, so how, then that's a good thing. And it's nothing to do with ethos. It's kind of like, this is all about helping people have a two-way feeling and more. But there is something that is there for free. So sorry, final one, and then I'll let Annabelle have a few on you. But okay, so that's a really fantastic articulation. Might take me a while to form this question because I'm like, I don't know what it is. With what you've reflected, how can you, or have you, or might you not take something into Claire Borer coaching and mindfulness, or in the application of what you're passionate about to helping other people? Have there been things? Have you got thoughts on how ethos might positively impact other people or are working with?
Mm. It's a sort of a both have you and might have I. So the first thing is sharing the value exchange. So with people to whom I felt it was particularly, they were in a position to hear it, because whilst I think it's applicable to everybody, not everybody kind of hears it, if you see what I mean. So that has been something that I've been doing, and only a couple of people, but each time it's been like, this is very compelling. The exchange, like you say, the two-way giving and receiving. How might I in my work? I think it aligns beautifully in that the work that I do as a transformative coach, as I said, is all about realizing who you are, what you're made of, your potential. And then obviously when someone has that grounding, that platform they have for doing whatever they're going to do is solid and sustainable. So where I could see the value exchange is that it's like the next stage. So in the coaching stage, or at least the way I coach, the first stage is about it's about a settling down, and as I said, establishing the grounding. Quite often people will come to me because they're quite overwhelmed, they're quite stuck, they're quite noisy. And so the first bit is the settling down, and the second bit is always, okay, so when they're in a good place, it's like, what do you want to go do? So that's the bit where I could see the value exchange come in, because it's a container. That's the wrong word, but it's something that people can actually grab a hold of and help them to start thinking through the process of, what do I want to do? But where I really like it is that, so in my coaching, I don't use tips and techniques, because when you've got your own grounding, you know which way you want to go. You don't need someone else's things that have been helpful to them. You find what's helpful to you. So whilst I know obviously the value exchange, you describe it as a tool, it is, but it is very much what someone can make it. They fill it themselves. So that's kind of how I see it, really. So yeah, that's kind of
and something that we there's no prescription in value exchange about what other tools you would find helpful. What we do say is we have a little bit more prescription in saying, number one, are you every 1 to 3 months reflecting on what means most to you? So don't leave it a year. Don't leave it, every 1 to 3 months. Have you had a quick 2-minute check-in with yourself? So we say that. And we also say, where's it written down? Where's it got out of your head into a piece of paper, a video, conversation? Who have you shared this with in life? Because those two things, because you kind of, they are quite prescriptive, and we've found being prescriptive on, tell us a story, share it with others, write it down. We finish the prescription there. We don't kind of go, give us 10 things, give us 3. You've got to, which the methodologies of coaching, and they do tend to do. Where I know you go to the other extreme and you say, no, I'm not going to tell you how to do anything. So between the prescriptive and the Claire, people that don't know what Claire's work is about, I would recommend completely giving it a go, because it's almost like meditation. What would you get by actually not forcing any thoughts in this area, and what is going to bubble up if you clear your mind of everything. But along the way, there's a bit of ethos's value exchange, of, nothing to do with us, but it just says, okay, have you talked to somebody? Have you got a group of people? Have you considered money in that? So it's very, very lightweight, but it does encourage a little bit of a process. And I'll stop there, Annabelle.
Claire, do you want to say anything in response to that? I mean, I feel I've always felt the same as exactly as you've both described. I think there is a discovery moment that somebody goes through where they have that, okay, I that grounding as you've described it, because I think maybe if you haven't got that layer, although I am interested in thoughts on, even without that layer, I feel that value exchange can take you on a journey towards that layer, even without sort of the fundamentals of being, which is, I feel, what you're about, Claire. Very fundamental, about self and everything we talked about in your wonderful course. You said, there are some people who are ready to hear it, and there's some people who aren't ready to hear it. I'm interested in sort of unpicking that a bit as to what your experiences of who might be able to hear this, because I'm also interested in, I feel on a mission of mindset shift, which is a major, which is not an easy thing to do necessarily. And so I'm just, who's ready to hear this? Who needs to hear this? So the answer is everybody, because the world is in crisis and we need to do a lot better. But that's a really highfalutin statement of, and what does that mean at a grassroots, at the the level of an individual, a person? I don't know whether you have any thoughts on that.
I have lots. So I'll
Good.
just try and slow it down to unpick them. And to answer your question, want to sort of go about in a roundabout way. And of course, I can't remember the first thing you said because my brain's just let that all go. In terms of hearing it, this is where I see that was right. The first thing was, I've got it. So hearing you talk, Annabelle, about the grounding and then the value exchange, I completely agree. The value exchange can be a door through to someone's grounding, and that's the thing. And you'll probably get this, in your work, and especially as a coach. There's no one entry point. As you said, Rob, the transformative coaching is free form in that it is person centered. You are, where the person's at, and there are many doors into where you're trying to get to. The dot on the map is the only thing that's there, and there are many, many ways to get to it. So that's the first thing that occurred to me, is that a discussion such as the value exchange enables can be a door to that. Who needs to hear this? The world. And the reason why I smile is because it chimes with. And one of the questions is, what change do you want to see in the world? And it's that everybody realizes that, for my part, everybody realizes that they're beautifully made to deal with the life, or live the life, or however you want to describe it. We're all beautifully made to live this life, including all its lumps and bumps and what have you. And yes, I would love everybody to know that of themselves, rather than see people suffer and really sort of suffer their experience. And so I smile because it's kind of the same with the value exchange. It's like, well, everybody should know that this is a way of working, that you can give yourself permission and two-way. So that makes me smile, because it seems like it's the same gig. So in terms of who's ready to hear it, predominantly I can speak from my experience of sharing the understanding that we talked about on the course, which was Uncover Your Brilliance, in that it links to what you said, Annabelle, about mindset. If a mindset is very wedded to its set way of thinking, you don't hear. And I think that's the same for anything, isn't it? Anything where you want to shift, whether it's a behavior which is derived from the thinking that you have, from habits or anything. If somebody is very wedded for whatever reason, and in my experience, the very root of those reasons are usually because it's what they know. It's what they know, so they're secure. It's certainty, so you don't want to let it go. Then your ability to hear is narrowed. Doesn't mean to say nothing gets in. I mean, I've had clients where, you know, we've had a conversation and it hasn't chimed, and they've said thank you very much, that was very nice, and then literally 2 years later they've come back and said, can we have a conversation? And the process has been transformative. So that's what I mean when are people ready to hear? Because if you look at the value exchange and you see it, and not literally this, but you see it as scary, or you see it as wishy-washy, or you see it as, I don't know, whatever you see it, because we create our own perception, then you're not going to listen. And so that's what's coming from around people, you know, ready to hear. And the only way you can know that is to start talking to people and just see whether something chimes and they go, now I'm curious. And then
I think we have definitely had experience of that, and that length of time. I mean, in the past we have talked to people, and it's you know, at a first meet, everything is always a no-brainer. It's about you, it's about being happy, it's about well-being, it's about meaning, it's about, you know, very few people can argue, you know, at that very no depth whatsoever, very shallow level, that's a good thing. You know, my well-being's important, how I get meaning's important. You know, nobody's arguing with that. But when you step away and you sort of like, well, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean I now have to do? And in my life, that's much more difficult barrier to overcome. And I think, you know, I remember talking to people about value exchange, and it took them 18 months, you know, to then come back to it and go, actually, I understand this now, and I understand how I am going to move into this. And that's not, you know, that it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing, you know, as you would say, Claire.
So having said, I'm not going to interrupt. I'm moved to interrupt because we're finding, we did one yesterday, with a guy called Danny, and it's all very well understanding. So it's listening and hearing, Claire, and then at an individual level or an organization or societal level, what is that change you're going to participate in? Because if the conversation that you have with yourself, your organization, and society at large is, okay, let's just leave it as it is. I understand it's not what I want, maybe, the world, the organization, myself individually, but I don't feel empowered to change that. So it's all back to that first thing that you said. It's about the permission to have something that means a lot, and you're going to act on that, because the resistance comes not from the first conversation, even when people, you know, don't listen, or they're listening, they're hearing, that's fine. But is there then a change agenda? Because value exchange is not a course that you then take with you forever. It's a practice like yoga that you do every 1 to 3 months. And that, because you're recognizing that you, the organizations you work with, and society as a whole, there has to be change, because that is actually like a river flowing. Everything is always in a constant change state of flux, but it is individuals' awareness that that change is a given. So what do you want to do? You know, what part? So I think that the resistance we've seen is the second, third step of the change journey of people going, right, I'll act on that. I'm going to do something. I recognize, you know, and I accept these things I'd like to change, you know, but it's sort of it's accepting that change is always happening.
Do you know what the cause of the resistance is, or what it looks like to those people? I mean, there is what it is fundamentally and psychologically, but do people kind of say, oh, I'm not doing it because have you got
No,
right?
because I think it's almost you having done it probably 2,000 times, in the last 15 years. I think it is um, a block because people don't feel empowered, because the things are not going to change because of something outside. And I'm not going to change because I can't change unless Claire changes,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
guide dogs change, or the world changes. And the world is like to not recognize that they're actually in this river of change, and that if they accepted that they change all the time, and they have control, or they have an ability to be present in the change, then it will happen. But
yeah,
but most people, I can't because of some
yeah.
extrinsic factor.
and and for me that process that you're describing is the same. We're working on the same stuff essentially, just in different ways, because from my own personal experience and experience of working with clients is that what when you're describing the resistance, it's because there's an outside in understanding. I need that to be like that to be okay. My experience comes from there. And there are degrees of that, how you see, whether you see yourself as a victim right the way through to sort of, kind of empowered thinker to, I don't know, whatever, enlightened guru or
Despot.
No, no, no.
Those are just two words that go together, not that. I'm a historian, sorry.
someone who is completely, what came to mind actually was the Buddhist philosophy is everything is transitional apart from I don't know, the universe, but I'm not very well versed, but their philosophy is that this too shall pass. We are in a constant. The only constant is change. I think it's something like that. Like the only thing which is permanent is change, and so it's that mindset shift that when you understand, see, experience, hits you between the eyes, whatever, how you want to describe it, that kind of, like, it's like getting a joke. It's like, oh my God, that's it. That you see that you can be, like you said, Rob, you can be the change, you can empower, and the outcome of which is not up to you. Whether guide dogs change or whoever you're working for, Tesco's or whatever, that's not up to you. But you do what you can do, playing your game of life. And in the work that I do, that transition comes about when people get that kind of, oh, so that's why I'm thinking what I'm thinking, or that's why, that's how that is. I mean, it's when you see the nature of anything. I mean, when you see the nature of gravity, it doesn't look sensible just to hold something midair and let it go, because the nature of gravity, that Rob, your tea cup or coffee cup, I suspect, is in it, would have just gone all over your lap. So it's about when you see the nature of something, then it's like I said earlier, things just become apparent as to what you do. And I think that coupled with the vehicle that is the value exchange, just kind of, you see, well, of course I can do that, because that's what I'm made of, to try this or work with these people or connect to these people. It's almost like a reminder of what's really good to do anyway, and that somehow gets forgotten. And the resistance to it, I should imagine, is because for people it's like, oh no, the world doesn't work that way. I can't do anything until that happens. It's like, well, of course you can. And who knows what would happen over there? That's not up to you. That's not in your control. But you can do stuff that's fun, that you enjoy, and might do good in the world. And life becomes a bit more enjoyable. But
And it comes back to,
Annabelle, I've completely forgotten.
well, no, but so back to Annabelle. But the reflection on that bit was, to realize that you get something out of it by participating in the flow of change, then actually it's something that takes without giving. So it's a little bit philosophical, but back to what you said, that actually there's people and there's experiences that what are you getting out of this? You know, we're not paying you money, Claire, but your engagement of the ethos has been so deep and fantastic, and you must be getting something out, because why do you turn up? And it's kind of like we have a role that says, you know, I'm a partner, I'm an employee, I'm a volunteer, I am a role. Well, you're not a role, you're an individual. That in everything there has to be more than just money exchanging hands. That we sort of we've taken the money thing to substitute for meaning. Whereas in the olden days, we might be an artisan or apprentice where, you know, actually it is that participation that creates meaning. And it's by participating and recognizing that's where we derive meaning and just unpicking that to get conscious of it for ourselves. That I think that is, you know, it's a level that we tend not to talk about in value
Yeah.
exchange because it's quite behind the scenes.
Cerebral.
It
Yeah.
is quite believable. What a surprise that we go there.
We always do, Claire. Yeah.
And there is a quote, and I really wish I was good at remembering quotes, and it's from I think it's from someone in the 19th century, and it is around you know, it's not just your effort that I want you to burn bright, you know, because you're doing something that gives you such enjoyment and fulfillment, and that you feel spent at the end of that from doing something that just gave you one hell of a kick. And you know, and you say, you know, why did I do what I do with ethos, and not getting paid? So many reasons, quite apart from the learning curve of working with a group of people virtually, which I hadn't done before. But when you connect with people in whatever you're doing, for me, it just happens to be around, you know, personal development stuff. It's like plugging yourself back into the mains. And whether you're doing something, you know, creative, practical, technical, it's whatever your passion is. Mine just happens to be enabling people to see what they're really made of, and it's like plugging yourself back into the mains. And I always learn heaps from anybody that I work with, whether it's one-to-one or a group, because you see the world through their eyes. So that, you know, that's why, I mean, at some point I do have to start doing stuff to get paid for it, otherwise, you know, it's baked beans on toast every day. But if I
If
could,
you're lucky.
if I'm lucky, but I do a lot of pro bono work. You know, thankfully I have got a job where I am employed, which enables me to get paid for doing it and do it unpaid as well. I mean, I get to do it in both worlds, and I'd love to do more of it, because you get one hell of a kick from that light bulb going on when people going, oh God, I've just realised something, you know.
Yeah, I'm still really, I can't help ourselves or myself when I talk with you on the psychology thing, because I feel I I want to turn the world 180 degrees, and I want for people to work together and help each other, and so establish that opportunity to shine bright that you just described. Because wouldn't the world be a better place if we were all supporting each other to get the results that we want, rather than this quite competitive landscape that we've created?
Yeah.
In many ways, you know, we talk about collaboration. There's some brilliant things that go on in the world for sure, but generally, you know, that the whole employment market, for example, it's built on a competition, and actually, I just feel that's not it's not great for us. It's not great for our well-being, you know, as human beings. It's I'm not anti-competition, I might add. I love competition. I love sport. I love, you know, it's part of life that can be helpful, motivating, and useful. But generally, you know, if you're, you know, if it's like the Hunger Games, then I'm not interested really, you know, which is, it feels a bit like that on its way. You know, I always joke about us heading for the Thunderdome, you know, it's just Let's not do that. But yeah, I again, a massive challenge, a massive thing facing society, and I only want small things, me.
And I'd really urge you to kind of make links with the 3PGC, so the Three Principles Global Community, because they have a similar mission, which is there's nothing, and I'll take the competition thing just as an example to illustrate, is that it's where you come from. So if your come from is we are all connected, and we're all that connection, that compassion, that kind of I'm okay no matter what, doesn't mean to say you're happy all the time. Just I am whole and not all that sort of stuff. So, and you have competition from there. Well, it's fun and it's constructive and it's productive. The competition that I think where you're talking about is where people it's that no, I've got to get this to survive, because it is dog eat dog. And that reality, when you come from there, no, I think it's really unconstructive, and I think it flies in the face of how we're designed as human beings, because you get a lot of noise in head when you're on that platform, and actually I think decision making and everything, it is not as good a quality. So I agree with you, and we quite often say this, when getting together with fellow coaches or teachers or across the globe. God, if everybody just knew about this, whether this is value exchange or this is how we work, or and whatever interpretation of this is, wouldn't the world be a better place? And I just wonder if it's human nature that many times many people don't. But I think we should continue to strive for it, because I agree with you, when you come from a place of connection, of compassion, of creativity, wow, there's stuff that we can do.
Yeah, I think I would view it as maybe better, but different, which could be better. Because I think you have to be careful, don't you? Just the grass is not always greener on the other side. The grass is just the grass on the other side, and it's just it feels like there are always unintended consequences that you couldn't even predict from doing something that you feel is brilliant and worthy and great for society. So just that constant. So back to your comment about all there is change. I think we just have to be prepared, accept some level of uncertainty, but and accept that there's going to be iteration always,
And I think
constantly.
that's a really good point, and it just makes me think that yes, there is a tendency to speak and forget the other nuances, because life is a contact sport. I mean, you're always going to get your knocks. I think Sydney Banks said that, is that you're always going to get your knocks. I suppose what I'm thinking of is that there's a difference between going through life understanding that you're always going to get your knocks, and like you say, there's going to be unintended consequences and all the rest of it, but knowing that that's okay and you're always doing your best, versus going through life and when you get the knocks, it's someone else's fault, or it's your fault, or it's one is like ugh and a struggle and limiting, and the other one is life.
Indeed. I'm conscious of the time. Rob, do you have anything more? You are just sitting on mute. This is very unusual for you.
No, I'm just behaving myself, which is very rare.
This is just weird.
The virtual equivalent of sitting on your hands, Rob.
Yeah, they are actually stapled to my chair now. No, I think it's been a fantastic discussion, and I think we've had some real insights.
I'd just like to, Claire, just give you a small platform as to, both Rob and I were in your little pilot group for your latest course, Uncover Your Brilliance. And I just wondered where you're headed with that, and, encourage, as Rob did earlier, anybody to get involved if that's something you're taking forward.
Thank you very much. very timely. The wonderful Linda Wall and I have a meeting this afternoon to discuss exactly that. And it's, yeah, we would love to do it again and again and again, and to enable as many people are as interested to see what it's all about. You know, what is Uncover Your Brilliance all about? Where we go from here, we don't know. That's going to come out of our conversation this afternoon in terms of potential groups that might be interested. You know, just kind of, if you sort of stick something on LinkedIn and not a lot of people hear it, it's got to be conversations with people. So yeah, anybody listening who does want to find out more, you can go to my website, Claire Bora Coaching, and contact me through there. Or if you do know the lovely Linda Wall, then obviously contact Linda.
Who doesn't know the lovely Linda Wall?
Amazing. And praise Linda.
She'll be on here soon. She's on the list.
Good. Oh, it will be a beautiful conversation. So the answer is I don't know, but that's the fun of when you create something, isn't it? You don't know. You just got to see, take some constructive steps and see where it goes.
And we'll put the link to your website on the Value Exchange podcast.
On the details, yeah.
That would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
So I just want to do a huge, warm thank you, Claire, for sharing your insights and having a chat publicly available. It's wonderful. So thank you very much from me.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
thank
from me too. Thank you.
It's lovely to see you both again.
And I can just see Bob in the background. He's behaved so well.
There he is, Bob the dog.
Okay, wave goodbye. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.